Good morning, everybody, or good evening, depending on what part of the world you are in. I'm in California, so it is morning. So I will say good morning. Um,
Yeah, it's evening, so
we might
it's
actually,
8 p.m. in Finland.
yeah, I was thinking we might want to actually like move it up an hour earlier next week, possibly. So it would be 9
Hey,
a.m. for me, and then you guys would in Europe wouldn't be up so late.
uh, anybody from Australia? What is there?
Well, I mean, Australia, there's no way to sync with that. It's always going to be 3 a.m.
Okay, so we mostly have people from USA and Europe.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of funny. Like, um, we stopped doing these for a while, and then we started doing them again. And we had like one guy from Australia, and he would show up like every week at like 3 a.m. and he'd be like, "All right, guys, I'm gonna go back to bed now." Um, okay, let's see. Let me turn this music off. I think that's enough of it. Okay, so a few things we'll review this week and just talk about what's going on next week. First, I just want to, I'm sure everybody here has seen this, but this is a video from Klepto 2 of the fast Fourier waves he's working on, and it just looks so good. I think it's so cool. I can just watch this for hours.
Yeah, and like it's actually 3D. It's not just like a texture. It's really 3D, and it's also physics can float. What is it called? Buoyant
Yeah.
things.
What's the frame rate of this?
I don't know. He posted some results of like what his frame rates were. We're looking at a GIF, so it's like it's pretty choppy, but
he usually puts his frames per second in the title, in the window title. So maybe like you can see it pass where it says no. He usually puts it in there, but I guess he didn't.
yeah. Anyways, there's a lot more information on that on the on Discord and in the gallery. So last week was like a massive bug fixing week, which isn't surprising because we're like barely a month out of the first early access release. This week I got fewer bugs fixed, but they tended to be ones that were like more involved. So they took more time. So those are really good to get solved too. And there's two that there's a bunch of them that I won't mention, and then there's two that were pretty deep problems. One is the culling, and I'll show you the problem here.
Mm-hmm.
This is running in. This is the debug build, so it's kind of
Really
exaggerated. It isn't this bad in release, but this is basically the issue. And the reason it's happening is because the culling is actually asynchronous from the rendering, which is very, very cool because that means that it doesn't take up any of the rendering time. But the downside of that is you can get that issue, and then, of course, it's worse in the debug build. So the solution to that is this. I wrote about this in the ITSEC paper. You just make a bigger volume, and it uses some like prediction to guess where the camera is going to be looking next. And so now the solution to this is this swept culling command, which you can enable. It's disabled by default. We might want to change that in the future, but this example shows it really well. And it does all the feedback I got on it says that it works really well. So that's a big deal to get fixed. And then
You say it's asynchronous, but it's clearly some kind of delay in seconds. It's like 0.5 seconds.
oh yeah,
So where does the delay come from? Is there some kind of like an update delay or timer?
yeah, it's running on a separate thread, and the results get reused. Like I think it's usually running at like 30 hertz.
Okay. Okay, that's exactly it. 30 hertz, exactly half a second. Right? Okay, right. That explains. So is there any chance you could raise the FPS of the cooling?
You could, but it doesn't. Like you're kind of thinking about it wrong. Like you don't like culling doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be exactly real time. When you use this command, it does some prediction to, like, if you're turning right, it'll just keep turning right, and it'll make a bigger volume that that encompasses everything in the camera's view. And it reportedly it works really well, and in my test it works really well. So that's actually like really cool, because we can reuse the visibility list from the culling operation. We reuse that like several times before we get a new visibility list.
Yeah, I understand it might be some issue of compromise. So either you have like a super fast cooling, but then you have a less smooth frame rates, or then you have this adaptive cooling, which is not so bad actually. I don't mind that. I really prefer that the engine runs smoothly without lags delay.
Yeah, I mean, if there's any issues in the future, we can probably fine tune this more. But just try it and see what you think, and I'm sure there'll be some fine tuning to do in the future.
Yeah, I haven't tried this yet, but you said to me, this will solve that problem. Like in Cyclone, where if you turn the camera really fast, you see like the jigsawness of the level pop in, and a lot of people turned off VSync, and actually have a feature in Cyclone where you actually disable collision culling, because people would rather see lower frame rates than see like parts of the world load in when they turn the camera. So hopefully that will fix that problem. So
I think I noticed. I think like I even saw something like that in the reviews for your game, and
yeah,
it that's actually something a little bit different. We're talking about hardware occlusion culling in that
All
situation, which is what's causing that. And I'm not such a fan of it anymore. I'm actually interested in the future. I'm kind of interested in writing a BSP compiler and visibility system, because it just seems that the user has so little tolerance for that kind of thing.
Yeah, that was a big issue, and I thought like the how the trying to put this in words, like the how Ultra Engine renders and does everything would speed that up a little bit, but I'm still like seeing it. And I saw this and I got excited because I thought this would solve my problem, but now you tell me it's not really going to solve my problem. It might like enhance it because it's going to predict where the player is going to turn next. So that popping in will be probably be a little less noticeable, but I need that to go away completely.
No, I think this does like completely solve the problem. I mean,
all right, well, maybe I'll try on your first-person shooters, first-person player script and play around with it.
Yeah, the example that I made here, what it does is it creates a bunch of boxes like in rows, and then if you can look like left and right or move around, and it like I couldn't, like when I run this example, I couldn't see any problems. I'm not going to run it right now because I don't have the pro version installed on my laptop because I'm running out of hard drive space on this machine. But just try this example if you like, and you'll see what it does. It actually, I think it works really well.
All right, well, I'll give it a shot, and
yeah, definitely let me know what you think. The other big issue was this one that goes back. Oh wow, this actually goes back to the beta. This is from originally reported in October. And this might have actually been a couple of different issues that kind of changed over time. But the last one was an error in the shader. And basically that error is gone. And now the terrain editing, it's like super, super silky smooth. If you do have hardware tessellation enabled, especially if it's on a high level, then that does slow things down, but that's more a matter of performance. It's not a bug. And then in addition to that, there was just a lot of other small issues and a lot of getting ready. Next week, 0.9.3 is, well, it's on the default branch right now, actually. But next week, that will get announced, and there'll be an email that goes out about that, and there'll also be the first Steam sale next week, like normal week-long Steam sale. And that one's going to be important because that gives me a benchmark of what I should expect the revenue to be like on a normal basis, because those things do tend to be very Steam sales tend to be very consistent, surprisingly so. I also got a couple of other things done. I have one component that I added, which I'll show you here. This is the color changer component, and this works. What I actually did is I took the code from the lighting code from the original Quake game, and I added all of those basically animations into this, and I'll just show you what it does. This is one. You might actually recognize this from a lot of like Half-Life Source Engine games. Try another setting. Now it still needs a couple of things. There's no interpolation between the individual values, which is okay with the strobe effects. But you can see here it's a little bit like the lighting changes are a little bit like jumpy. But that can all be fixed up. So that's on the forum right now. You can download that and start using it. And then what's that?
When will it like be part of the official like SDK or standard project? Because I assume that you're gonna make all these components and you're gonna just put it like in a default project, right? Or do you want the default project to be bare bones and have the user go out and find things?
No, this will come stock with the default template. It's just I'm kind of prototyping things with Lua first because it's faster to write those, and then I'll write the C++ version once everything's. What's that?
For
me, it's the opposite. I get frustrated with Lua.
Are you planning to make something like an asset store or something like this where actually the components get listed and you can download them within the engine?
Yeah, my position on that is creating the infrastructure for that to actually work is fairly trivial. It's not very hard. My position on that is that the content needs to come first. Like, it's easy to build a store. It's very hard to populate it with content. So let's use the forum as long as we can, and then when it gets to the point where we have so much content that it needs something like that, then that's the point where I'll build the store. Because that's I'm not really worried about being able to do that. I know exactly how that will work.
Yeah, that's an excellent question from Andy. I was thinking about something similar. Would it be possible in future that the users who have brought the Pro version could select certain components of the engine, how it compiles? I don't know, you probably compile manually right now, but you could have an automated batch which compiles the engine, and the users could select certain things like, I don't want VR, keep it out, and then make it all the things necessary which make the engine like a different without VR, like whole program optimization works.
Yeah, like being able to discard pieces, you know.
Yeah, that's works. Godot works like that. In Godot, when you compile, you can just select you don't want this script engine, you don't want Lua, you don't want to do that. You just need a compact engine, which is not 21 megabytes, maybe 5 megabytes.
Yeah, it's possible, but it's just like when you break things up like that, it gets very complicated, and the separation is not. I mean, it tends to be very. Everything tends to be very interwoven.
Yeah, I don't know about a build system, but for example, Godot has its cons build system, very easy to use.
Yeah,
I agree. It's easy to set up for the user.
Yeah, I mean it's possible, but it's. I mean, I don't see a big need for it right now. It would be a pretty big amount of complexity to
Yeah,
change that
yeah,
structure.
maybe not right now, but maybe in future, like the final polish stuff,
Yeah, it's definitely
Like,
definitely something to keep in mind. And who knows, we might be able to do something like that in the future. The other thing here is there's an extension here that it adds this little menu item here that says
mhm.
convert texture to DDS, and the textures for this model are already DDS. And so previously we did have this feature up here. You could convert to DDS or basis textures, and then when you did that, you had to it modified the model, and you would have to save this, and then it would save the model as a new glTF file. What's different about this extension is that when this works, it actually loads the glTF file as just JSON data, and it parses it and converts the textures and replaces those without actually going through the engine's model pipeline. So this allows it. Basically, this is less destructive. It will resave the glTF file, even if it contains features that are not supported by the engine. Like the only thing our glTF saver is really missing right now, I feel, is animations. So that is a problem because previously the only way to switch your Blender doesn't export glTF with DDS, neither does 3ds Max to my knowledge. So the only way previously that you could really get DDS into an animated model was to manually edit the glTF file, which it's not that hard to change that around in Notepad, but now we can just do it right here with this extension, and you can get that on the forum as well. That might become a standard part of the engine in the future, but right now you can download it from the forum.
When we talk about the components, right? I suggested in the Discord that maybe a list component would be good. And in this case, or in this, I was also thinking a bit more. So at the moment, you define the field within the editor as with some example data, right? So, for example, a numeric value is the number field, and a string it's a normal text field. And wouldn't, or maybe it would be better to just define like list or the type of the field instead of example data within the JSON file.
Let's take a look at this.
You know what I mean?
Not sure, but I'm gonna open this up, and I think it'll be easier to.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I
at the
think I
moment
know
you
what
got
you mean.
the value at the moment defines what the field is, right?
Exactly. Okay, so it's kind of like the Microsoft query style. You get the data and it tries to figure out what you want.
Yeah,
Number,
it
date.
figures. It generally it figures. It's able to tell if it's a string, a boolean, or an integer, or a float. And then there's other values that, if they're present, then it makes additional choices. Like, okay, so this is an integer, and then it sees the options data here, and it knows that it should be like a drop-down box.
Okay. So, but the value, or in my case, if I create a component and the value which I write in the JSON is not appearing within the editor. So this might be a bit confusing. So yeah, I mean, I know that it's for to define the field, but yeah, if you want to have, for example, more things like a list and other fields in the future, then maybe define the field within the properties instead of a example value.
Okay.
I have not. I don't like to use JSON personally. I use just like a CSV. In the first row of the CSV, I define the field names and types. I kind of have my own proprietary CSV database format.
Okay, so when you say a list, are you talking about like a list of string values?
Yeah, a list of string values, for example.
Okay.
That you can add, for example, like animations or something, the names of the animations. So if you make for example, my mouse movement listener or my mouse movement controller, so I could add some animations for the idle, for the
Okay. So
or,
this right here,
or
that's an array,
yeah, I
and
know, but the user can't, or I can't add values to this, right? Except from the JSON.
right now, okay. So that's more an issue of we don't have an appropriate interface item that controls that, other than a
And
comma
because
separated list.
I also noticed that when you change values in the editor, they don't update in the JSON file. So it's only like a one-way initiation.
Well,
And
that's
first
correct.
time,
That's correct. That should be
yeah.
because those values are stored with that object. So we're talking about two different things. We're talking about defining what the property is, which here's how we could do a list of if I did this right here, that would tell it that it's an array of strings. So that would be okay for that.
Yeah.
But we need some kind of interface item over here that can define what a list is. How do you see that? How do you see that working?
It was in Unity. I think there is something like a list box, and below there is a button, is a text field with a button with a plus or something, and then you can add something. And
Okay. Okay. Yeah, we can. Yeah, I think that could. I think that's a good idea. Yeah, I'll
so
look into that. And but this would be like how you would define that in the JSON file.
okay, yeah. And yeah, I need this, for example, for the attacks, so I can put in the attack names for like the enemies, because I
Yeah.
don't want that every enemy has the same attack. So I don't want to make like 5 components for every enemy type. So I just can put in the attacks, which are strings, and the component can get the attacks then from a map or something. So he knows what attacks he have to do and not.
Well, you could have some kind of JSON file of the different races, enemies, and then there are different attack styles.
Yeah, but with the editor, it's much faster.
Yeah. Yeah. Just it sounds like a convenience thing. That makes a lot of sense to me. What you can do, like in the immediate term, is just do like a comma separated list, like as a string value. But yeah, I can totally see how that would be super useful.
Nice.
Okay, so we talked about terrain, culling, water. Okay, so again, I think everybody knows this, but I do want to talk a bit about what's changed in 0.9.3. The biggest change is going to be just the general creation selection method. We went over this a couple of weeks ago and decided that the old way we were doing things wasn't that great, and so that's where this button, this kind of hybrid button, came from. That when this is selected, you're in creation mode, and you can create what you want. And it's not immediate, so I can still adjust the size and the position of this thing, and then create it when I have it where I want. And then I can also create things just by pressing this plus button. And then finally, we used to have a panel over here for objects, and we had like a bunch of like drop-down boxes to select the category and the object you wanted. We also had a menu up here where you selected the object, and there was a bunch of like nested menus. And we've gotten rid of all that, and now we just have this, which I think when I saw this, and the feedback when everybody else saw this was like, wow, this is so much better.
I like it. It's good. Visual, good always.
Yeah, I still reach for the other panel, but because that's
old habits.
I'm so used to Lego. Yeah.
Yeah. So
like I go to the panel, like, all right, I want to create box. Oh, it's up here now.
I have
Yeah.
one issue. When I create an object in this 2D perspective views or 2D views, then it kind of doesn't know where I want it in the other axis. So it sometimes pops up far, far away up or something like that. There's some way to say like, don't make the object randomly somewhere. Make it somewhere close to 000, the origin.
Well, it's not random. It's based on like whatever the last selected object was. So I'll bring this down to.
I see. So you first have to be like in a place in a 3D view, and then kind of knows.
Okay, so the last selected object is this guy up here, right? And now
Yeah,
I'm going to switch to back to creation mode.
You could try make some object which is high above, like 20 meters above.
Okay, it looks like it's based on like the last. Let's try it here. Select this light. Okay, now switch back to create mode. And it's down on the ground. I guess it resets it when you go out. Yeah, you're right. There's probably some fine tuning to do.
Also, if you were to select like a point and see like a environment light or the camera, and then with it selected, you try to.
Oh
like,
yeah.
It still makes like that like skinny box that can get off the grid.
Oh okay, yeah. So.
And then yep, with that selected, now go to the
Now
top,
switch to box.
and then try to make a box. Or it does that, where it's really really big.
Okay, so I think it's using.
Well, usually it's very very thin, but you created a lot of stuff here, so I don't know where it's getting its Z value.
It's getting it from the bounds of the last selected object, which is this.
Oh, I
and
see.
Then so.
Let me try that with a point light. I was doing it with environment light. Actually, try selecting the camera and try doing it.
Okay.
And then box, and then.
Yeah, now it's huge because the camera frustum. It's using the camera frustum for that.
Yeah, that's the thing.
So yeah, that's something that's that needs to be worked out a bit more. So
maybe just make a max height for brushes.
I'm kind of thinking like the camera in those kinds of calculations, the camera frustum should be discarded.
Yeah.
I had to do something. This is another thing. I had to do something similar because if you used this frame selection tool previously, like it would make the entire bounds of the camera volume within the viewport, and so it would go like way out here. Like it would zoom out so far that everything, like nothing was even visible. And so I did change that for the camera bounds. It's just that it's using the entity bounding box like uniformly to do those calculations, and so I have to go back and figure out, okay, there's the real selection bounds, and then there's the practical bounds that we care about for other purposes. So that you're right. That is something that just needs to be worked out. But that'll probably take like a week or so, because I'm sure there'll be a lot of follow up for that, because it's kind of a detailed thing that affects a lot of different things. So thank you for bringing that up, though.
Yeah.
I posted in this text chat here from this channel image, which maybe the list could look like. Also in Unity list, but the Unity list, not general here in this channel. Yeah.
The text channel. So
how do I even
top right?
The
Top
speech
right.
bubble.
Open chat.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that looks good.
Yeah, I think that's also something. I don't like this open chat thing. You could have like a text channel just right above this.
Well, I mean, this is We're using the
This is
thing that for its intended
yeah,
use.
but it's horrible. It's horrible.
And
Don't use it.
above, I posted the thing in Unity. The Unity thing is a bit more complex. You can add entities in it and other stuff.
Oh, so you can
And,
have like a list of objects?
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, a list of string or lists, would be also already awesome.
Okay, so how would we define that? It would be like, I think if we did this, no, it's not nil, it's null. Okay. If we did this, then I think that would tell the editor, okay, this is a list of objects. So yeah, I think that's probably doable as well.
Yeah, and you could maybe drag and drop the object into the text field then, and add the plus for adding it and the minus for removing an item of the list.
Well, have you seen there's an interface for adding entities into as properties already?
Yeah, I know. I
Okay.
used it already.
Okay, so like yeah, we can probably use like some variation of that worked into the list. I think would work.
Yeah, or something like this. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but lists are really powerful, so yeah.
Okay. Okay, so let's see. That's the object creation. We also have, we have this over here, which is, this was always planned from the start, but it just, like these little add box buttons weren't in the initial release. So this lets you create a new folder if you want. You can create a new material or a new component, and this is super useful because test. It just gets rid of a lot of manual work. That's just so much easier than having to create these from scratch. Another thing is actually we have, it's just a visual effect, but we have these transparency effects. You can see here. Those look cool. And then it's also here you can see the bright area behind the box. It looks very nice. Over here we also have this is an alternative way to add another object into the scene, and if you have an object selected, then it will just create it as a child of that in the hierarchy. So that's kind of convenient. And overall, I just like the consistency of having that button there on both of them. Was somebody going to say something?
No.
Okay, I thought I heard. All right. The AI features are new for Steam users because so we were actually held up during the release process for a couple of weeks. I think due to some AI features that we had, and it's just integration with OpenAI, so we can generate. We have text to image. You need your own API key for this, but it is convenient to have it in the editor. You just enter your description and wait a minute, and it creates a new image for you. And that's pretty cool. And then here's another.
And it makes like seamless textures too, right?
Yeah, that's the thing that's actually I think that's more interesting than the image generation. First, I'll show you the variation. This makes a variation of your image. I think it works better for for base textures. Like if you have dirt or grass or something, it does a pretty good job with those. It's a little bit unpredictable when you have something like this because this is okay.
How can I get this extension?
I should be in there right now. I need to update the AI policy on Steam. But I think it's safe to use this. But what's really cool is the make seamless feature. This is very, very cool. So let's find two areas of this image. Over here, we're like tan, brown. We have all these dark patches. And over here, it's pretty white. Over here, it's like orange and bluish over here. These sides don't match at all. So let's try this. What this does is it uses image inpainting to remove the edges, and then it allows it to generate, fill in those edges. And the results should be pretty seamless.
I think it did worse job. I think it's done.
So no, this is
The top doesn't. I don't think the top matches. It doesn't uniformly tile. I don't think.
the top actually does match. You can see right here
Yeah,
and right
it's
here.
not uniform. It's not really uniform. You know what I mean?
What do you mean by uniform?
Like part of the top bottom shouldn't be on the top, and the bottom shouldn't be cut off.
I mean, you can use this on a plane or something, right?
Well,
On a cube.
we're talking about like how the tiles are shifted. Like you would like this to be moved up about like 32 pixels or so.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean that's more like I wouldn't expect it to be able to do that. If we don't like that result, let's just try it again.
Now, would it be possible in the future to link this extension to a local AI generation? Like, let's say the end user does AI, local AI, instead of relying on a Silicon Valley server, because they want to make sure that the models they're using stay out of the legal gray zone. And so,
Yeah, I mean, we can do anything with the Lua extensions. Actually, I think this result is a bit better. And a lot of times I find that, like, I think at first that it's not tiling, and then I look a little bit closer and I see that there's like a small little edge that kind of resolves something that doesn't match. Make seamless. Yeah, it's just all the AI systems that I've seen so far, they require like a ton of. You have to install like a bunch of Python stuff.
yeah, I know. I experimented with it. It takes like 30 gigs of your hard drive, and it's a lot. But some people actually do run AI locally. So
Yeah, that's why. I mean, if I wish there was just like a simple like C++ library that did it. It's kind of surprising actually that they use Python because it's performance intensive. You would think that you would want it to be as fast as possible. So and the results we get, I've seen like just during the time I've used it, I've seen the results change quite a lot. So it's always, I'd say it's a lot better at doing textures than it was like 3 months ago. So it's pretty interesting.
Well, also, like, an end user can go on textures.com and find a good ground material, but it doesn't tile, and then use this to make it tile.
Yeah. Actually, I think we have a good example of that.
Well, if you remember those old style 4K, 64K games, they use some kind of procedural textures to create all the textures by mathematical function. That's also possible.
Oh, I remember. I know what I'm looking for. Okay. It's that giant thread, this guy.
And then there's one guy who made this kind of super realistic ice cube texture. And it was using some kind of shader, kind of like a Kleptos ocean shader. But the ice cube was like a 3D texture. It looked like it was also inside cube, not only on the surface. If you remember the ice cube.
So let's see. This is the original, and you can see up here on the right, this does not match this.
And there's a gap at the top, and
then down here, here's another good example where this does not match the left side at all. And then here's the tiled version. It kind of resolves all of that pretty nicely.
is there a way to preview tiled material textures in the editor, or not yet?
Like see what the tiling looks like.
Yeah, so if I load like a texture, is there like view show tiled?
No, but I think that's a really good idea. I like this right here. You can see this slab right here.
Mm-hmm.
It's going down and then it just appears here on that side. That's a really nice example of it working. Yeah, I would probably do that by showing the texture like up here on the sides and up here, and maybe put a line around the bounds of the
Right.
of the
Yeah,
original.
I think you only need to like do it like make 3 different copies.
What do you mean, 3?
Like you don't want to like make the entire thing tiled because that would probably be too much. But yeah, just like take that image, put one on the left, and then make it like a box, and then highlight the original bound.
Yeah, I think all the tiling textures look fake anyway. So I
Right,
think
but you want to see if it actually all lines up and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and so
that would be very
like-
helpful right now.
it should be done like terrain layers. In terrain, you have like multiple layers of textures, and you can apply some alphas on some textures to there and here. So you don't have the repeating pattern effect at all, but you have just like a multiple textures on top of each other.
Well, there's good reasons for that, and okay, we could put like a menu item here that says like show tiling,
Yeah.
and then
Well, if you ever looked at VTF Edit, which is the tool that source engine modders use to do their textures,
is that part of
there's an
NIMS tools?
Yeah, there's an option. There's an option to view a texture tiled.
Okay, I'll take a look at that. Yeah, I don't know why, but I liked his stuff.
It's essential in the modding space. Like I think I was the only one still using VTEX.
Okay. And then last but definitely not least is we've got like just a ton of bug fixes that came in between, of course, the first month of any software release. It's gonna be a lot of fixes, but I'm very happy to say, let's see, filter unsolved. Yeah, we've got just one page of things here. And then solved, we've got 20 pages, and these are 15 threads, 15 forum threads for each page. And this goes back to December 24th. So I would say I've probably fixed about 60 bugs since the initial release.
Yeah, and so far I don't know any showstoppers at the moment. The only thing I have one bug, which I think is a bug or might not be a bug, is that when you slice and brush, it gets darker. At least in my game, but I can't reproduce it, so I don't know what's going on.
Okay, well, if you're able to reproduce, it's probably like a material or...
Yeah, I'm trying to reproduce it. That would be
Okay.
the thing, but I can't. So something wrong between my game and the example for the box.
Yeah, I would look at like the material settings, especially like not just color, but like the metalness setting for the material. That will actually affect how bright it appears sometimes. And then, of course, like the entity and the material color. So that's where I would look and just try to eliminate any variation there.
Okay.
I'd say my greatest ongoing concern right now
It's AMD.
This is the thing that I really want to solve, but it's also like this is going to be like a deep dive. This is like several days of just focusing on this one issue, and I didn't know if I could get it solved this week. So that's why I decided I'll wait until like 0.9.4, and then that way I can just focus on just this for an extended period of time. But actually, if there's another thing here that's related. Let's see.
The thumbnails, I believe.
No. I mean, that is, but that's not to this problem. Let's see. Oh, it's like, I know I just saw it. Like grid lines showing up on terrain or something.
Oh yeah, I know that. Let me see if I can find that real quick.
Grid lines visible over terrain. It's right there. This right here, you can just barely see those. That's not visible at all.
I could see some patching. It doesn't look like grid lines. It looks like you see like the patches, I believe.
Well, I can see it right here and here
Yep.
and here. That I think that's caused by the same issue. And what's interesting here is we have it occurring on an NVIDIA card.
Yeah, but it's also run through Proton. That's a Linux window.
Yeah, that does. You're right. That does add a layer of. I think I have seen this happen under some circumstances. So I asked the author if he can give me the exact textures he's using in this exact scene, because then I can compare and see if I'm getting the exact same thing. But if I can solve it here, then I think I can solve that AMD issue. And if not, then I can report it to AMD more confidently, knowing that it is in fact a bug, because I don't actually know if it's a bug yet or not. I just need like an extended period of time where I can just focus on that, and then it will get solved. But I think we will have that coming up soon. So next Monday is when that's going to be the first Steam discount, like week long discount goes on. Ultra Engine Pro will go on sale for the first week, and Ultra Engine Standard will go on sale the second week. My thinking is, it's better to have a 2-week period than to have both of those competing during the first week. We'll see how that works out. I'm not going to do a demo for Ultra Engine yet. I like to do a lot of like sort of A/B testing. So I'll look at what the results of the sale is this time, and then maybe next time I'll do the demo, and then I'll have like 2 data points that I can compare, because I like to make decisions based on actual data, not just my theories and wishes about what might be. And also next week, okay, so next Saturday, I was saying we might move this up by 1 hour, so that the European people who show up, they don't have to stay up so late. And getting up at 9, being here at 9 a.m. is not so bad for me.
Well, it's in Finland. It's 8. I think in Germany it's 7 right now. Or it was 7 when it started.
It's 8 in Germany.
Yeah, right now, but it was 7 when it started. Germany is 1 hour late.
Do you think an hour would be more convenient? An hour earlier would be more convenient for you guys?
I don't
fine
know.
with any time.
I think it's quite good right now. Like 8 is for Finnish people. We are 9 people. We like 8.
Okay. I don't know. We can talk about it this week. Then I don't know for sure.
I got two important things, which I want to ask. So we talked about the prefabs, right? So did you know already something more about the prefabs?
Yeah, I think what we kind of concluded either during the discussion or on the forum, I can't remember which, but since 0.93 is good and stable and out now, I think prefabs are one of the first. Okay, the things I'm thinking of doing next, besides that AMD issue, which is that's high priority. But I think next prefabs would be a good thing to get implemented quickly. I don't think that'll take very long, as well as some of the extra entity information that we were talking about for like a per entity value for texture scale, for texture offset, for emission color or brightness. Um, I think there was a few other things. So basically adding an extra 4x4 matrix of data for each entity. Um, that's a trade-off, of course, because it means more data is going over the PCI bridge. But I don't think the number of objects in motion is something that we need to obsess about. If we can have a little bit more dynamic per entity data, I think that's a good trade-off. Um,
Yeah, and also
mhm.
I know it's a hard thing, but the terrain is, I think, really important, that you can actually place trees and grass, because those are the things which makes your game, yeah, look pretty, right? And the moment it's just a plain texture, but if you are able to place grass and trees, it makes, yeah, a really big difference.
Well, that's the vegetation
Yeah,
system.
yeah.
Yeah, so there's okay. So as far as rendering speed, Ultra is so fast it probably doesn't need a special rendering pathway for vegetation. If you just place a bunch up to a certain point, I mean, at some point, like memory will start to become an issue. But if you have like 10,000 trees, it'll handle that like nothing. Um, that's
Yeah, but
so that could be done. There could be an extension, an editor extension that places objects randomly on the terrain. The there's I kind of want to defer the full vegetation system because there's some questions about the full capabilities that we want. I have been doing some work with large scale geospatial mapping, like very, very big scale. And I don't have anything to announce yet because I'm not sure exactly how it's going to be rolled out and what the final result of that is going to be. But it's something I'm definitely interested in being able to support very, very large worlds in the future. And we would want vegetation to definitely support that. We would want like the vegetation system to be able to accommodate the size of the entire Earth. So there's some questions there that need to be resolved, and then also I want the different layers of vegetation to be a little bit smarter than in LEDWorks. In LEDWorks, you could paint grass in one area, you could paint trees, you could paint rocks, and they were spaced out evenly from each other, but there was no kind of communication between two different layers. So you could, if you painted a bunch of trees and a bunch of rocks, then you would get trees growing out of rocks. It would be nice to be able to eliminate that, and I have some ideas of how it can be done. So I guess what I'm
mhm.
saying is I don't want to just take the LEDWorks vegetation system and port it to Ultra. I want to take a little bit more time and do something that has the full capabilities that we want, so that I don't have to go back and because it's really hard to go to change your scope after you've established like what you're trying to do. It's a lot easier if you establish your scope first and then design something that fully meets that. So that's the best explanation I can give you right now.
Yeah, yeah. The thing is just I want to Yeah, I'm on this survival game, right? Which I posted in the forum, some posts. And I really don't want to finish it with Leadworks because the Ultra is already there, and it would be a dumb idea to finish it with the old engine and then port it to the new engine and make the same work again. So yeah.
Probably my best advice, like right now, if you want something immediately, would be to figure out a way to place trees procedurally based on maybe based on the texture at each terrain point. You do have the ability to, let's see, terrain, get layers. You can retrieve the layers that are in use at each point, and then you can also get layer weight. You can get their relative influence. So you could just find the most influential material at each point, which would just be the first one listed here.
It's not about only how I say it. The trees is more difficult, or the more difficult part is the grass.
The grass. Well, I mean, you could just link that to a grass texture.
Okay, yeah, I have to see how I can do this. At the moment, I just paused the project and keep waiting for the vegetation. But yeah, I also think other people might be interested in the vegetation system.
Yeah, I agree, because like outdoor scenery is it's actually like really good for indies because it doesn't take that many assets to make something that looks good. You only need like a few trees, a few bushes, a few grass, a few plants. And that stuff is easy to get. There's like a plethora of cheap or free 3D models for outdoor scenes, and it's easy for indie developers to make something that looks great. So I agree, like it's a high priority. It's just
I think it's something which makes the engine complete, at least for me. Because at the moment the biggest thing is missing is I think is the vegetation system.
Yeah, I want it to.
The prefabs, just two things.
And Josh talked earlier about this putting some more properties into an entity. And I'm always worried that you bloat the engine too much and make it slower. I don't want that. Because what I have heard from other users, they don't even use the engine keep count of the properties of entities, but they make their own lists of entities. So they don't use like words, get entities in range. They just have to keep their own C++ maps or list vectors.
Well, the command that you're talking about, let's see, world get entities in area. This is actually really important because this is a dynamic thing that quickly retrieves. It uses the scene octree to quickly retrieve all the entities in a defined volume. So this is actually like super important because if you're running around or something.
Yeah, but you can do that also yourself by just having a map of coordinates and check the map.
You wouldn't. It would be, you'd have to have like basically your own like scene tree to do this efficiently. So this will operate if you have like, let's say you have 10 million entities in your world, which you might run into memory problems. I'm not sure at that point, but let's just say you had like some ridiculous number. And then if you call this, it's actually like super efficient because it doesn't have to iterate. It doesn't iterate through the entire like global list of entities. So I wouldn't be so worried about that.
And you said a pipeline. What does it mean? Are you sending the data actually to the TPU, or what does pipeline mean here?
In when did I say pipeline?
You said refer to pipeline when you said you will add more properties into the entities, and somehow related to a pipeline. What pipeline?
I'm not sure what I said. I'll have to go back and look at the video again.
Yeah, right. But the general question is, when you add more stuff to an entity, like I was also worried because I use brushes instead of models. Does it make my game slower if I use
No.
brushes?
No.
So there's also, but there is more information because a model doesn't have to slice.
Okay, so the an entity in Ultra, it lives on the game logic thread, and it has an associated physics node object that lives in the physics thread. It has an associated render node object that lives in the rendering thread. It has an associated culling node object that lives in the culling thread, and other things. And the engine actually has like a bunch of different hidden APIs that aren't accessible or meant to be used to the end user. And so when you make a change to an entity, it sends that change over to all of the threads that change relates to. So if it's a change to mass, then it sends that data to the physics thread. If it's changed to the appearance,
the mass is very interesting because I create a brush, right, a cube. Then I say set mass 1, and suddenly the cube becomes a model physics thing or something like that. I don't know what it becomes, but it's definitely not a brush anymore. It's something more than a brush because it's a physics brush now.
well, yeah. It actually like generates that object like when it needs it, and then waits until the call to.
Yeah, that's what I told. So when I say the command, because brush is it's a zone of entity, and entity has the command set mass, right?
Mhm.
And so somehow then entity decides you brush are not just a brush, you are a physics brush or whatever you are, model, I don't know. But it works nicely, but I just want to know what's going on.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry about that kind of thing, because like, so physics mode, this is probably what.
Yeah, just set mass and slice. How
Yeah.
do these two commands work together? Because they shouldn't in theory, but still they do.
Yeah, it just kind of. I think I made pretty good decisions about the design of all of this. So I think everything's okay, and I think everything's like super efficient. You know, when it comes to optimization, like not all optimization is good. Like you want to, if you're not targeting the bottleneck, then you're kind of wasting time. And we had a discussion about somebody came on Discord and was talking about like, well, you should store all your entities as objects in a big vector and not use shared pointers at all. And I disagreed, but I was being polite, but I disagreed strongly. And
but I understand his background because I also made a test immediately. I was like a speed test fanboy, so I tested, and we both, you and me, realized that it indeed a shared pointer is 5 times slower than.
Yeah, but it's something that's never going to become a bottleneck, so it doesn't matter. I mean, that's a very it's a very impractical hypothetical scenario that's never going to exist in a real game.
And the trade-off is worse because if
I mean, it's 2024, so the hardware is getting faster and faster. I think the pointer thing really just is not that important.
Yeah.
Well, again, I'd rather have my game run a little bit slower than crash.
It doesn't run any slower at all. It's 10 times faster, guys.
No, I'm just saying.
I have a bottleneck, or I don't have a bottleneck, but when I have 2,000 spheres, which are physics objects, and then when I make like each of them pulls each other to each other, then I have a bottleneck.
Yeah, the issue there is when you have okay, first you're probably using one thread, right?
Yeah, I have to use one thread because as Newton is not deterministic.
Right. It'll be faster, of course, with multiple threads.
Yeah.
I don't think you'll get like if you have 2,000 stacked objects. That's something that is typically like very computationally expensive. Newton 4 might actually be able. It probably wouldn't be able to do 2,000. It might be able to do 1,000. But
1,000 is fine. Yeah, 1,000 is fine. Yeah, but 2,000 gives like a yeah.
I haven't jumped to Newton 4 yet because I'm not sure like how reliable it is. I'm very interested in the future. But I think Newton 3, I think we should just like focus on that and then
Yeah, and maybe this Julio, or how's it called? He could also make that also multi-threaded Newton would be deterministic. Maybe some kind of
I don't know. I don't know if that's possible, but I would ask on the Newton forum. So anyways, so next week will be the first like week-long sale on Steam, like I said, and then next Saturday we'll have a bigger meetup like this. I'll promote it a little bit more, and hopefully more people will see it. And I think Reap wanted to. Are you going to do a talk next week?
Yeah, so pretty much what I'm gonna do is we're gonna make a model completely from scratch from Blender and get into Ultra Engine. There's just a few things I want to check. What the engine can, what the editor's like current status is, because how I want to like do it is I want to make sure that when you make it, I want my models to have its own textures folder, and then I want the engine just to convert the textures in the textures folders and then reassigned. I don't want it to like put the textures with the model. I kind of want the textures.
So you want to convert the images to DDS without moving them?
Yeah.
The new extension will do that, and then the built-in feature in the.
Yeah, because I think how we have all the models right now, I think it's a little messy. I think having a folder for each model is kind of dumb, to be honest with you. You kind of just want like props, and you see all the props of the games, all the props.
Yeah, actually, I think that's a pretty good idea.
Yeah, because right now it's having a model per thing is kind of
that is
messy.
Dumb. I am dumb.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm gonna experiment with that, and then we're just gonna make like a little lever switch, and that involves two models, a custom collider, because we got to make sure that the collider matches close to the little like lever, and we'll go over a lot of topics. We'll make a simple material using free and open source software like Blender and GIMP, so that should be fun.
Okay, cool. Yeah,
I think something we should also maybe like a sneak preview in the next session that how we continue the development of the engine. In my opinion, we should focus making the current tools as polished as possible, and then slowly add more expansions. Like would be really nice to have Klepto 2 here, which is C# thing what it's doing, and I could also tell about this story thing where I can kind of translate human to C++. So keep all the things we have now good as possible, so we don't need additional tools. The core tools should be capable of everything without, bonus tools.
Well, what are bonus tools?
Like extensions.
Bonus tools would be things like, organizing your assets and stuff like that. The editor should have it built in. So the editor should kind of like a conversion from anything to DDS or something like that. I'm not an artist, so I can't tell.
So are you talking about like editor extensions?
No, I'm talking that the core editor should be in its current state. What it does, it should really do it as good as possible.
Yeah, it worked already. He makes a good job. The editor.
How do you call it? This design, this user experience UX, you know?
Yeah,
What it,
there's currently, again, like what we were saying with the models. Sometimes like last time I tried, like when you try to convert a texture from a texture subfolder, it would just move all the
yeah,
DDS
yeah, exactly.
to that.
So
And
if
then
any,
there's
exactly,
also like there's also things like undo redo still like not working correctly. I was just duplicating boxes while we were talking, and I went to undo it, and it's not undoing things. So, and also I don't have shift duplicate still, and I really want that.
Yeah, I think we've actually like sort of been taking that approach. Like right after release, it was apparent that there was an issue with the with like how the objects were created. And we went through an iteration of that, and what we have now is much better. And I don't mind going back and iterating on this again and again and getting it perfect, because it's like with Ultra we're doing everything right from the ground up, and so it's worth going back and fine tuning any little kinks in the user workflow. Definitely agree with that.
Yeah. Again, we don't know what the limitations are, so some people try to start making things and say, "Oh, this is difficult," or "Why can I not just do this? Why can I not just, make a selection box and select all the objects in the selection box? And why can I not do this?" You know what I mean? So it's all about like what the user wants in the end, like when they're trying to make things and their frustrations and accommodating for Right now, with me, I just know that like Lebrix has things that are not in the current editor at this point. Like again,
yeah, yeah.
selection boxes and
Mm-hmm.
shift drag to duplicate, and so
You're right. I think, although I haven't used the latest Letrex, but what I've heard, it was very, very polished. And
And
In some
Josh,
ways.
can you please make the nav mesh, if you already put it in the scene, that you can hide it? Because
Oh yeah, for sure.
modeling the terrain and design the level with the visible nav mesh is not that easy, to be honest.
Yeah, actually, that I agree. That should definitely, and that's easy. That's pretty easy to do. So I think that should.
again, people just gotta use it, complain, and they'll fix it, I guess.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the best. Using your tools is the best experience. Yeah, definitely. Like, I'll. I think I can probably get that in next week. And if I don't say anything about it, then please remind me on the forum or on Discord, because I think that's fairly simple to add, and it would definitely be a big improvement.
and what about this one new guy who came to the general discussion? He also asked Ethan. He asked about no solar. He asked about Ultra UpKit. So I know that's not supported anymore or not developed anymore. But does Ultra actually fully replace Ultra UpKit?
Yes,
And you want to use it?
yes,
Okay.
it has everything that Ultra
Well,
AppKit has, except for
it's
Mac and Linux support right now.
well, it's like a yesent because for me because the Ultra App Kit will make binaries way smaller than Ultra Engine. Like I had my preprocessor.
Exactly. Yeah,
I
yeah.
had my preprocessor on the engine, and Josh was like, just
Mhm.
use Ultra App Kit. Your application go from like 20 megabytes to like
Yeah.
2 megabytes.
That's why I asked earlier about this. Can we have a separate compiles, separate builds, the same build, separate compiles with separate features?
Well, I mean, you have to like balance that with like, I mean, how big of an issue is that really? 20 megabytes. That's pretty tiny in, as far as modern executables go.
Yeah, but I was making like a one CPP file big.
I know. That makes sense. I mean, I guess
Yeah.
we have to, you have to decide like what's the goal of Ultra Engine? Is the goal of Ultra Engine to make the smallest executables? Is it to have the fastest loading time?
No, but
Is it to? I mean, all those things are important, but like you have to decide where you want to put your effort.
I would say to make good games.
Fast games, but I think what he's trying to say is like you made a very good graphic user interface, and people. I think there's there's instances where you just want the graphic user interface and all the system commands, where you don't care about Vulkan, but you got to carry that bloat with your simple graphic user interface, even though you don't tend to use the Vulkan renderer.
Oh, I got something else which I have in mind. In C++, you can do filters, right? And maybe for the editor, something like filters would be cool.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm planning on that. I just haven't done it yet.
That I can make some filters and just not have 100 entities open in the tree view.
Yeah, I think the reason you're seeing right now that you're seeing the editor not like having a couple, like LeadWorks having a couple more features than the editor, is because the new editor does so much more than LeadWorks. So I have to spend more time getting the basics right. So for example, like in LeadWorks, everything just got converted into an MDL file automatically by one conversion utility. In Ultra, you have a lot more freedom about with the modeling pipeline, like way more. And so as a result of that, that means there's more things that can go wrong, and so it took quite a lot of time. I'd say actually like 50% of the development time of the editor was probably just in the asset editor window where you're like editing, looking at a model or a texture, and fine tuning it. I'd say that was like 50% of the development time.
Matt in the chat is asking how he could remap his keyboard because he's on a different keyboard than the QWERTY keyboard. And I guess like another thing one thing I learned from Cyclone is that like different keyboards don't make sense with a typical QWERTY keyboard. That's why I spent like months working on a good input system to allow rebinding. So I guess
for perspective view, please, or remap keys options. Yeah, that's what country are you in? What is the Azerty keyboard?
Germany has Azerty.
But in Quintus' profile, he's from France. But yeah, I actually did all that work as an abstraction layer. I can share that and people can use it. My abstraction layer does a little bit too much for like something to use for like the editor. It's more meant for like games because there's action sets and action layers and all that. I think you just want a simple like rebinding system. So
well, in the okay, so like right now in the all the editor menus are stored. If you go into the program folder where Ultra is installed, there's a UI folder, and then there's a menus folder, subfolder there, and that's where all the program menus are actually stored, and that includes the hotkeys that are used in there. And so you can actually you can modify those menus, and the editor will pick up those changes. But there are some things that are hard coded, like the WASD movement.
Yeah, I think that's what he wants to.
Right,
change.
but there's only a few things like that, so I think those could probably be moved into some kind of config file. I don't think that would be too hard to do, and that would be like a super. I mean, it wouldn't have like a super nice interface for modifying your key inputs. You would still have to modify a JSON file, but it's something that I can get up and running like very very quickly, probably like Monday.
Well, I tried to make like an application that does that, and because my input system supports not only the massive keyboard, but also supports like all the controllers Ultra Engine supports out of the box. And I was just like, I'm not doing that. I'm just going to let the user figure out what's important to them because, again, but I think for the editor, you just want like, oh, this action is assigned to this key. Well, with me, I have to determine if it's an axis or a button axis and what action set from like mine's meant for more games than GUI applications.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody's really going to be using like an Xbox controller in the editor to do their editing. That would be
Yeah.
interesting.
VR editing.
I wonder if we could do that. ZQSD, is that really how you guys play games?
Well, it's mapped. They're in different.
Yeah. I know. I'm joking. Would give you like arthritis on a US keyboard. Okay.
By the way, what about this UTF-8 support in the sprite text?
We already have that, I think.
Not completely, at least.
There might be some characters from the font that aren't getting picked up. It does support, I believe it. Actually,
I mean, it works in C# .NET framework, but some of these strings don't work in Ultra.
I think it depends on what you're. Okay, so by default we use wide strings because that removes a lot of ambiguity, and then you have one character per. It just works out a lot better. But we do conversion when we store files. We often convert that to UTF-8. So are you talking about creating a sprite, a text sprite?
Yeah, text sprite, and then have some like a term and über das alles, and also Swedish or A with an
Yeah.
top, like Stargate, Swedish O A.
Yeah, I think that the issue there is actually I need to like make I need to kind of change the way that the font is being rasterized, like the characters it's looking for. I need to make that more dynamic so that it can support. Okay, so like the fonts contain like a ton of characters. We don't want to go through and rasterize them all.
I think the fonts are okay because it all works in .NET C#, so that's no problem.
But I know, but the font has to be the font. Basically, the
yeah. I've also tried to make this work in C++, and it's really, really difficult. In C#, anything works just out of the box, but C++, you somehow need to switch to different encodings and stuff like that.
It should, if you just use a wide string, just declare like a W string, that should handle everything. But the issue I'm saying is like the font is a vector file and it stores a bunch of characters. And right now, I think it's just it like when you load the font, it loads up, or when you start using the font at a certain size, it creates a texture based on common characters that it expects to be there. And what I need to do is I need to go back and make that more dynamic so that whatever characters you're using, it requests those and rasterizes them, because ultimately it just turns it into a 2D image.
Yeah, but also like when I have just like a basic, like what is a normal font today, Consolas or something, it also has Chinese character. I wonder how is it possible, or does it kind of switch the font to some Chinese font when I kind of request from Consolas Chinese characters? I don't know, but it works.
That was in C++?
No, just basic C# .NET framework.
Yeah, if you have like a more specific issue, then like please create an example that I can run on the forum. But the issue I'm telling you about, like there is something there that can be improved, and I plan to.
And of course, this is not so relevant for games, but more when we are trying to use Ultra for business applications.
Yeah. Actually, okay, in that case, we're talking about something completely different, because those strings are going straight over to the Windows GDI Plus font rendering system. So that I actually would expect that to work more easily. So if you do have a problem there, I would definitely like to see that, because I actually think
But
that's a simpler situation than Vulkan graphics.
and I think there will be many things I have to still like test and stuff before we go live. The this business model, but yeah. For
Okay,
now, we're
great.
just doing
Yeah,
like games and
yeah.
stuff. But
I'll
yeah,
look at anything you have because I mean that's super
uh,
helpful when you guys send me examples like that.
Josh,
Hmm.
did you ever played World of Warcraft? I got a question. I think it's easier if I can explain it like
No, I played the original Warcraft when it was an RTS.
yeah.
basically
Okay, that's what.
I want to have an question mark for a quest, for example, overhead of an entity.
Hmm.
How would be the smartest way to do this?
Try it. Try it for 3D. Just use a 3D camera. Don't use 2D camera. I do that all the time in my game.
Okay. Yeah, make a forum post. Maybe we can discuss in the forum. Would be really cool to have some nameplates and some stuff over the head of the entities.
Yeah. It's
It's
possible. It's very
like
easy.
a text sprite.
Yeah, for example, in Sprite or something which is visible all the time.
Oh, so you want it rendered on top of everything else?
You have a nameplate, for example, like in LoL or League of Legends. I think it's in a 3D camera because the 2D thing is looking at the moment that the sprite is applied on the ground, not on the.
Yeah. So in 3D things, when you have labels on top of characters, you have to position the sprite on top where the player is, and then rotate it towards the camera.
You could also just draw it on top of the scene in 2D. But if you have like a images or videos that show like exactly what you want to do, then that's the easiest. You know, a picture is worth 1,000 words, and I guess so. A video is 1,000 pictures, so I guess a video is worth 1,000,000 words.
Yeah.
Right.
Just quick questions I have, really quick. I just want an idea when we're gonna get shader variables in, like for animations, because we talked about that.
Yeah, we did. I would say that's probably something that we can expect to happen like pretty soon. I think like prefabs and that I'd say are like the next features that I want to add because they're so like low level.
And when are we gonna get strip lights in the editor? Because that's missing.
You remembered those.
I really want the strip light. What's the problem? Like, is it because the creation's different, or?
Well, there's not a problem. It's just like, you know, I'm constantly deciding like, okay, what am I gonna do today? What am I gonna do today?
Oh yeah.
So, okay, I see, and I do want to get them in because I know like once I get them in, I know you'll have some really cool screenshots using them.
Well, because of what the things we're talking about, I'm trying to make like a list of like everything, and not only like what we're talking about, but like what I need for my port of my game. I have like a list of like things that's like, okay, in order for me to start production, I need this in the engine, this in the engine, this in the engine. I need to be able to do this. So
Okay, and you're saying that these are high priority for you, relatively high priority.
It's well, the shader things are high priority because
Yeah.
I need to figure out like, oh, how I'm gonna like do the cyclone animation effect, or how I'm gonna do the fizzler animation effect, or how I'm gonna increment the indicator strips, because that needs decals, and I need to be able to change the emission color of the decals, and I need, you know what I mean? So
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
shaders and decals are kind of like up there. Strip lights are more of like a visual effect, but they look cool, and I was really excited when you put them in.
They do look cool, and then I took them away.
Well, they're still in it, but I think they're
Yeah.
still in the engine, but you just no easier way to make them. And then as I'm working like on my core systems, I'm experimenting with, okay, like how would I experiment with, like right now I have an application where because you pointed out the set order camera, I can actually just create a debug overlay, and I can have an overlay separate from the game, and I get my input console. So I have like an actual console in my game, and I can draw like my stats on that layer.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but this a thing I need to experiment more is that you need to have the layer render first, and then you need to immediately hide it, like when the stop render event triggers, or else you get like a bug. You have to I have to like make an example to demonstrate that. But I begin like weird things with the list box, and it's kind of hard to like isolate that because there's a lot of moving parts to get it. But
Yeah.
but I can like send you my project's really small. Like I can just send you my project and you can like step
Yeah,
through
definitely.
it.
Yeah, so the animation, the shader animation settings, and like per entity settings, I'd say that's like high priority, and I think that'll help you the most, the quickest. So
Yeah.
that'll happen first, and then I'll see what I can do about getting the strip lights in as soon as possible, because I don't think it'll probably take me like 4 hours to get those in and to test them
Right.
out.
Yeah, because I just have like a list of like things that like I need to see in the engine before I start production. Because right now I'm just working on um foundational things like, oh, I have to make sure the window can resize. I have to make sure my input
Yeah.
system works. I have to make sure and all that, which is great because I don't want to make something and then you decide, oh well, I need to change this, and then I need to change something.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
I'm pretty much working on things you had like set in stone like half a year ago. If that makes
Okay.
sense. But I'm also experimenting with like trying to figure out like how would I do a game UI? Is it best to have it in component space, or should I have it in application space and have the UI always in memory, or should I have it be deleted and recreated, be a part of the player script or
Yeah.
a player? So I'm trying to like figure out like what's the best systems for that, and also with like settings. I have a commands and convar system now, like Quake and Source, and
Hmm.
I'm like, oh well, should everything just be a convar, or should every setting be a convar, or should I have a dedicated settings system? You know what I mean? So it's like those problems I'm trying to solve now while I wait for my things I need to do, the things I want,
Yeah.
slowly get done.
Now the strip lights. So these are like basically like a fluorescent tube. They don't cast shadows, right?
Yeah, that's fine. What the issue was is that you needed like a million point lights to like at least two, depending on like the size of the light strip. In Cyclone, I used a point light every 64 or 128 units or
Yeah.
something, and you kind of like saw like the specular of each point light. It's
Hmm.
more about specularity than shadows, pretty much. Is
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. They do look very very nice and cool. I like them.
yeah.
Oh yeah, and what we actually, I don't know, we are closing, not yet, sometime maybe later this year, the 1.0 version. Would be
Hmm.
really cool to have some ultimate, video on YouTube. Ultimate marketing video, like a voices from Quake, like the worst, fastest engine, and show all the demos from Quake, all the oceans and all this cutting physics of stuff and all the cool things people have done by then. To all kind of these little, intrigue technical demos, in the short clips and some nice voiceovers.
Yeah, I have some ideas, and because we have a huge plethora of 3D models now that are good, that we can easily
Yeah,
access because of
well,
the glTF support.
And I want to emphasize not only like focusing on FPS shooters, but all kinds of games. Because people always ask things like, "Can Ultra do this? Can Ultra do that?" And I always want, yes, Ultra can do anything.
Not anything. You can't do 2D games.
Anything, like even
It,
business
it can do
applications.
2D games, but I think there's a hidden question there, and it's like well, do you
Why?
have a ready-made template that I can start using as to start my project? I think that's what they're actually asking.
Yeah.
Even if
And
sometimes they might not even know understand that distinction, but that's kind of what I think the hidden question is.
Yeah, but this 2D game is only sprites, so you can basically render sprites. It's not that big deal, right?
Yeah, there actually is there's actually a new joint we have that we didn't have in Leadworks that it locks things onto one like plane, so basically makes 2D physics. I think it's called a plane joint. And that actually can be specifically used for 2D games. I'd say Ultra is probably overkill for a real 2D game. I think it would be good for a 3D in 2D or 2D in 3D, whatever they call it, game.
Not really, because I think the commands of the entity system of Ultra makes the game so much easier. Usually, I've found out that 2D games development is much more difficult. So even if the old engines were overkill, still the development would be easier.
Perhaps, but the system
you wanted to
requirements
do-
would be high. Hello.
Hey, sorry. If you wanted to do 2.5D, we'd probably have to figure out that problem of how to do like the perfect pixel or nearest pixel, whatever thing, so that it doesn't blend your pixelated artwork. That would make it hard for the 2.5D. Is all I'm saying.
Really? Because I mean, isn't 2.5D? Isn't that a 3D render, or is that like
Yeah,
isometric?
Well, if you wanted to do like a Doom style game, that would be 2.5D, where like the enemies are 2D, but the environment's 3D sort of thing. That's what they kind of mean by those two things.
Okay,
It's
I was
really a
thinking more,
3 point, yeah.
I
Or
was
you
more
can do
thinking,
it the other way.
I was more thinking about this game, Little Big World. You can have a side scroller, and the world is actually 3D, but you can only move sideways.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. Was like a 3D side scroller.
Oh yeah, that's the other type of 2.5D. They go
Okay.
both ways.
All right. Well, I gotta get going, guys. This is a very good session, and this one's going. We've been recording this. This one's going up on YouTube if that's okay with everybody. And
That'd be great. I just
Yep.
dropped it.
so
I
yeah, we
back
got a
from
cameo
Cabo,
appearance
like,
at the
2
very
seconds
end.
ago. I just got back.
But
Good to
you
see ya.
missed it last week, didn't you?
Yeah, because
Okay.
last week I was flying through the air trying to get there.
Yeah, I sent you the video of last week. So
Yes,
do you
I
have
just
work?
saw that.
Do
Thank
you-
you so much.
Do you have work or something, and you just got off, or?
No, that was a vacation to Cabo.
Oh,
It's snowing here, so we always go to Cabo for a week. Soak up the sun.
it sounds tough.
Yeah.
Okay. One last thing, guys. If you have run the engine with any amount of stress on it, and you have seen that actually the claims that it's making about the performance are actually true, your reviews on Steam are very, very much appreciated. So I hope to get more of those up next week.
I really
That
like
sounds
it. Was
interesting. Because, like I said earlier, I'm
Can
always
you do
most of the
screenshots in
people
Steam
who are still fanboy.
reviews?
Wait, what?
Does anyone know if you can put screenshots in Steam reviews? Because that'd be super cool to be like, oh, this one gets 72 and
No,
this one's
it's
like
just
up in the
text.
400s.
I don't think you can.
That'd be a bummer.
It's just text.
You could do ASCII.
but-
You could do an ASCII render.
You can actually, the attachments and screenshots in Discord are public to everybody. So we can just paste a screenshot or link from Discord. They don't need to register to Discord. Just public.
Maybe. But anyways, thank you all for coming. And next week will be a very big. This is kind of a small, quiet one, but I think next week will be a very important one, and we'll have a special presentation by Reap Blue about modeling with Blender, all the way from a concept in Blender to it sounds like a finished working 3D model.
It's just gonna be a simple model.
Well, don't
Models.
don't
It's gonna be
you gotta like upsell it, not upsell, but
I'm down.
you need some sizzle.
it might be a small model, but there's gonna be a lot of information.
It's gonna it will be life changing, no less.
Yeah, we don't need like a perfect like modeling high-end tutorial. We just need to see the whole.
Oh, it's not gonna be a tutorial.
pipeline.
It's gonna be like, okay, we're gonna do this. This is how you bake an AO map. This is.
I hope maybe after next session. Okay, next session is dedicated for Reap Blue and artistic stuff.
Well, it's gonna come later, like the last thing, because it's gonna be like an hour.
Yeah, I think we'll do an hour like of general stuff, and then give him an hour.
I would really like some kind of like a more from coders perspective, not for artists but for coders.
Well, I'm a jack of both trades. So how it's gonna work is that I'm pretty much gonna like, so there's a slight disconnect between artists and programmers, because programmers need something like where I was going with the first person view model. I was trying to explain to the artist, hey, I need the camera.
Oh, yeah.
I need the origin where the camera will be, so I can so I don't have to so I don't have to waste time trying to position it in code. Yeah. I can just so it's gonna connect artists to programming. It's like, okay, this is why you want uniforms to be uniform. This is why you want your models to face a certain way. This is why you want. So it's gonna be it's not gonna be a high professional model, but it's gonna have so much information that connects the programming side and the artistic side and all that. So
Reap Blue, I would really like to see that you go into the artistic stuff, but also show how you can do code in the arts, with the scripts and attachments.
That's kind of the sweet spot, because that's where, like you're saying, like that's the interplay of art and programming.
If we have time, we can write a component for it.
1 week later, we would have a really deep dive into the really hardcore coding, which are things which you can't do in art, or the big stuff like huge data and millions of iterations and stuff.
Well, the scope of next week's session is to get a model into Blender, and if there's time, I'll write a component for it.
The hardest part is anyway to unwrap the UVs if you have a high detailed model.
Yeah, that's the biggest time sink right there. So
yeah, I'm actually like learning.
It's easy.
I'm looking forward to it quite a bit, actually, because some of the stuff you're talking about is stuff that I don't know how to do in Blender at all.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna cut the recording here, and let's see.